There are moments in the tapestry of time when two souls, ordained by divine design, find each other not by chance, but by calling. These are not ordinary meetings. These are intersections of purpose, collisions of destiny that shake the very air with unseen power. When two anointed souls unite, the world will feel, not because the world understands, but because heaven whispers through their union. The anointed are not always loud. They are not always seen, but when they meet, something silent and sacred happens. The earth becomes aware not in thunder or fire, but in the trembling stillness that follows a holy encounter. This is not about romance or mere friendship. It is about alignment, where one soul, walking in obedience to the voice of eternity, meets another soul marching to the same divine rhythm. The meeting of two such lives carries weight, not just for themselves, but for generations. There is a spiritual tremor that moves through history when two divinely purposed lives connect. It echoes through culture, it stirs the hearts of those watching, and even creation seems to hold its breath. These are the unions that birth revivals, reform nations, or silently shift the spiritual atmosphere. And what is most profound? They often do not know the extent of what they carry together. They simply follow the whisper. The world will feel their unity not because they shout it, but because their union radiates the fragrance of heaven. The world will feel it when chains break silently in their presence. The world will feel it when their words pierce like arrows, but heal like balm. The world will feel it when their mere unity becomes a witness that purpose is stronger than preference and calling is greater than comfort. These two souls together become a lighthouse on the dark ocean of confusion. Such unions terrify darkness. Why? Because unity among the anointed multiplies authority. One can chase 1,000, but two, 10,000. This divine equation isn't mathematics, it's revelation. When purpose meets purpose, fire meets wind. When calling meets calling, thunder rides light. The opposition senses it, and the world cannot ignore it, not because of noise, but because of weight, the gravity of heaven resting on a unified mission. So if you are one of those anointed souls, do not be discouraged in your waiting. Your path may be narrow, your steps may be lonely, but trust the divine convergence, for the one you are meant to align with is not behind you or ahead of you. They are being prepared just as you are, and when you meet, not even the world will remain the same. True spiritual unions are orchestrated by divine purpose, not personal preference. This reality is often lost in a world where feelings are worshipped and fleeting emotions are mistaken for eternal truths. In the realm of divine purpose, there are appointments that far surpass attraction or compatibility. The union of two anointed souls is not born from convenience or coincidence, but from calling. It is the hand of the eternal artist painting lives into one another's journeys, not for comfort, but for commission. We often speak of love as though it begins with sight, but when God is the matchmaker, it begins with vision. It begins with a deep alignment of destiny, a holy arrangement where the journey of one soul intersects with the mission of another. These moments are not casual, they are orchestrated in silence long before they are seen in the natural. They are written into the fabric of time and sealed with the fingerprints of eternity. When people come together based on personal preferences alone, they build on shifting sands. Preferences change, tastes evolve, and desires can be deceiving. But when God unites two souls under his banner of purpose, the foundation is unshakable. Such a connection is built not on what the individuals want in a moment, but on what God needs from them in a lifetime. It may not even begin with overwhelming affection or earthly familiarity, but it will always carry a weight of significance that cannot be ignored. A divine union doesn't always feel natural. It feels necessary. There's a sense that something far bigger than the two of them is at stake. These unions are not bound by appearances or convenience. They may seem mismatched by worldly standards, but in the spirit, they are perfectly aligned. The wisdom of God often confounds human understanding. He places together those whose strengths and weaknesses balance out in such a way that, together, they reflect a clearer picture of his heart. The anointed soul seeks not merely a companion, but a co-laborer, someone who carries a part of the same burden, someone who hears the same frequency from heaven. The attraction may come, but the alignment must come first. Their union is not built for private comfort, but for public calling. Their togetherness is not for self-satisfaction, but for kingdom impact. Divine purpose is not always easy. It demands surrender. It asks each soul to lay down their own plans, to trust the invisible weaving of God's design. And that weaving may involve years of preparation, seasons of solitude, and trials that refine both people into vessels worthy of what they are to carry together. This is why divine unions are not rushed. They are matured through process, through obedience, through an often painful shedding of pride, ego, and expectation. And when the timing is right, when the two souls have been tested and proven in their individual callings, the intersection comes, often when least expected, but always when most needed. In such a union, love becomes a byproduct of purpose, not the other way around. There is affection, yes, and deep companionship, but more than that, there is mission. These two do not merely complete each other, they equip each other. They call out the anointing in one another, not through flattery, but through faithfulness. They speak truth even when it wounds, because they see in the other the reflection of heaven's intention. They challenge stagnation and demand growth. Their love is not passive. It is fierce because it is forged in the fire of divine will. There is nothing accidental about these connections. They do not emerge because two people happen to be in the same place at the same time. They are birthed in the secret place, in prayers uttered years before the meeting, in silent obedience when no one was watching. They are holy ground, and those who walk into such unions must do so with reverence. The stakes are high because the calling is heavy, but so is the reward. For when two people walk in step with divine purpose, they become a force against darkness. Their unity becomes a testimony that purpose, not preference, holds the power to transform lives and shift the atmosphere. And this is the beauty of divine union. It lasts. It weathers storms. It endures seasons of silence and seasons of abundance, because it was not built on what they felt for one another, but on what God deposited in each of them for the sake of a greater work. In a world where relationships collapse under the weight of unmet desires, these unions rise on the wings of destiny. They do not chase happiness, they chase heaven. And in doing so, they become instruments through which heaven touches earth. When two anointed souls unite, their impact is often quiet but world-shifting. This is the paradox of true spiritual power. It rarely announces itself with trumpets, yet its effects are undeniable. In a world obsessed with spectacle, we forget that heaven's most powerful moves often happen in silence. The union of two individuals walking in divine purpose does not need to shout to be felt. Their alignment carries a sacred weight, and the atmosphere around them begins to change not through noise, but through presence. It is not always seen with physical eyes, but those with spiritual discernment sense the shift. The air becomes charged with intention, the unseen realm stirs with alertness, and even the forces of darkness grow uneasy, not because these souls have suddenly become something new, but because together their spiritual resonance is multiplied. This type of union doesn't chase visibility. It does not seek applause or validation. It walks in quiet obedience, knowing that its strength lies in surrender. The two souls are not trying to impress each other or the world. They are trying to obey God, and in that obedience, a fire is lit. This fire may not roar in public, but it burns steadily in the secret place. The effect of their unity is not always loud, but it is always lasting. They don't need to trend on screens to shake kingdoms. Their prayers, spoken behind closed doors, shift futures. Their words to one another, though gentle, carry the weight of destiny. The silence they share is not empty. It is full of sacred assignments, divine insights, and holy courage. There is something remarkably powerful about two people who know why they are here and walk it out together without demanding the world's applause. They are not interested in fame. They are interested in fruit. They don't advertise their mission, but everything about their presence announces it. It's not in what they say, but in how they live. Their patience, their humility, their consistent pursuit of what is right over what is easy becomes a quiet revolution. They hold each other accountable not for performance but for purpose. In their union, there is a mirror of divine timing and heavenly order. They are not perfect, but their imperfections are met with grace, and their weaknesses are carried with mutual strength. In the eyes of many, they may look like ordinary individuals walking side by side, but in the realm of the Spirit, they are warriors, aligned and armed with divine commission. And the world will begin to feel the tremor. It may not happen all at once. There may be no fireworks, no grand declarations, but over time, things start to change. A friend finds healing in their presence. A stranger receives clarity from their words. A community finds hope from their sacrifices. People watch them and feel a strange hunger, not for the people themselves, but for the God who moves in them. It is the scent of something holy, the echo of something eternal, that draws others in without force. The union becomes a lighthouse, steady and unwavering, drawing lost ships home, not through sirens, but through steadfast light. This kind of impact is rare because it is not self-seeking. These souls do not try to build empires of influence. They build altars of surrender. And that is precisely what makes their influence unstoppable, because what is done in humility cannot be uprooted by pride. What is built on truth cannot be shaken by deception. Their quiet obedience becomes thunder in the heavens. Their private devotion writes new stories in history, and they do not always know the full extent of what they carry. Yet they simply walk forward, hand in hand, spirit in sync, listening more than speaking, serving more than leading, loving more than demanding. What they accomplish together is not measured in numbers, but in impact. One life transformed, one heart set free, one chain broken. These are not small things. These are the movements of eternity wrapped in everyday moments. Their influence will outlast their lifetimes, not because they tried to be remembered, but because they remembered why they were sent. And the world, whether it admits it or not, will feel the vibration of their unity. Heaven will have recorded it, hell will have feared it, and history will never be the same because two souls decided to walk not in noise, but in purpose. The union of purpose multiplies spiritual authority and disrupts darkness. This is not a metaphor. It is a truth embedded deep within the fabric of the spiritual world. When one anointed soul walks in obedience to their divine calling, their presence already carries weight. But when another soul, equally surrendered, joins in perfect alignment, the effect is not doubled. It is multiplied. This multiplication of spiritual authority does not merely affect the two involved, it sends ripples through realms unseen. The darkness trembles not because it sees strength in numbers, but because it recognizes the fusion of two divine assignments becoming one relentless force. There is something about unity under God's will that cannot be replicated by human strength or strategy. Alone, each individual may battle valiantly, but together, they become a storm that the enemy cannot withstand. This kind of unity is not based on personal gain or shallow agreement. It is forged in the fire of sacrifice, humility, and deep spiritual agreement. These two souls do not come together because they have the same opinions or tastes. They come together because they hear the same voice from heaven. They are attuned to the same mission. Their connection is rooted not in convenience but in calling. This makes their unity unbreakable and their authority undeniable. When they speak together, they speak with the authority of the one who called them. When they pray, mountains move. When they stand, storms still. Not because of who they are, but because of whose they are, and because they stand not alone, but in holy agreement. Darkness is always organized in confusion, but divine authority is organized in unity. That's why the enemy fears unity among the anointed more than anything else. He knows that two aligned believers pose a greater threat to his schemes than an army of distracted ones. It is the unity of purpose, the locking of spiritual vision, that renders his plans powerless. When these two souls move as one, their discernment sharpens, their intercession deepens, and their love strengthens. They become a wall against the lies of the enemy and a wellspring of hope for those around them. Their presence alone exposes deception. Their words cut through confusion like a sword, not because they are louder, but because they are aligned. Spiritual authority is not a title. It is not inherited by position, nor is it built by ambition. It is the fruit of submission to divine order. When two people live in that submission and walk together, their unity gives them access to dimensions of power that cannot be accessed alone. The miracles they see are not random. They are the result of alignment. The peace they carry is not common. It is the result of obedience. The battles they win are not easy, but they are inevitable. Their faith becomes a shared shield, their love a double-edged sword, their wisdom a guiding light. In the Spirit, they are seen as one, and the authority they release flows freely because it has been purified by God's fire and anchored in His truth. This kind of partnership cannot be imitated because it is not man-made. It is not born of ambition or emotional dependence. It is birthed in the secret place, in prayer, in silence, in waiting. It is confirmed not by how well two people perform together, but by how deeply they trust the same voice. The authority they carry does not make them proud. It makes them responsible. They understand that their unity is not just for their blessing, but for the breaking of others' chains. They are not an audience. They are soldiers. They do not seek comfort. They seek conquest over darkness. And everywhere they go, the atmosphere shifts. It is not theatrics. It is spiritual reality. Their unity speaks to heaven and to hell. Heaven sees them as faithful stewards of purpose and opens doors no man can shut. Hell sees them as a threat and deploys distractions, but it is too late. The two are one in purpose. The bond is not emotional. It is eternal. They fight back to back in the Spirit, watching over each other's blind spots, lifting one another when weary, reminding each other of the promises when doubt tries to creep in. They become each other's armor bearers, each other's reminders of calling, each other's reinforcement in battle. This multiplication of authority is a holy mystery, but its effects are undeniable. The darkness cannot comprehend it, much less stop it. It is not a loud rebellion, it is a quiet revolution. And the more these two walk in unity, the clearer the light becomes, the weaker the grip of the enemy grows, and the louder heaven resounds with joy. Because when two anointed souls unite in purpose, darkness has no choice but to retreat. The world may not understand, but it will undeniably feel the power of divine unity. This is one of the greatest truths about anointed connections. They operate beyond explanation. The human mind, shaped by logic, culture, and expectation, often fails to comprehend the invisible workings of God. Yet, the effects of His divine orchestrations are felt unmistakably. When two souls, chosen and anointed, walk together in holy alignment, the world does not need to understand the source to sense the impact. There is a shift, a stirring, a subtle but unmistakable change in the atmosphere around them. People may not be able to articulate what they're witnessing, but they will feel it. It may come as a sense of peace when they enter a room, a rise of hope when they speak, or a conviction in the heart that something sacred surrounds their lives. This is not because of the individuals themselves, but because of the divine presence that rests upon their union. Many will question them, some will doubt them. Others will try to reduce their unity to mere coincidence or emotional compatibility. But the anointed need not defend what God has designed. Their fruit will speak when their words are misinterpreted. Their results will answer when their motives are questioned. This is the beauty of divine purpose. It is self-revealing in time. The world, obsessed with labels and surface-level appearances, may scoff at what it cannot control or categorize. But eventually, The undeniable reality of divine alignment will demand acknowledgement. Not always with applause, but with silent recognition that something far beyond human effort is at work. There is a resonance in their walk, a rhythm in their connection that aligns with heaven's pulse. Those near them will begin to feel the effects of their prayers, their obedience, their love, and their faith. This influence is not always spoken, it is often sent. In the way they handle adversity, in the grace with which they respond to criticism, in the peace that follows their decisions, the world will encounter a glimpse of something greater. People may not know the source of the strength, but they will feel the strength nonetheless. This is how God reveals himself, through the ordinary living of extraordinary purpose. This unity doesn't come with flashing lights or dramatic announcements. It comes in quiet commitment, steady consistency, and deep surrender. The world is drawn to noise, but heaven often moves in whispers. The two anointed souls, living in unity, may not look like much to the outside eye. They may not wear crowns or command stages, but their spiritual authority will influence everything around them. It is not about status. It is about presence. When God is in the center of a union, the radiance cannot be hidden. Like the sun warming the earth, though hidden behind clouds, the impact of their unity will be felt even when it is not fully seen. There will be those who are drawn to them without understanding why. Hearts that are hungry will find healing in their presence. The broken will find courage again. The weary will rest in the safety of their shared strength. This is not charisma. It is anointing. It is not charm. It is calling. It is calling. The fragrance of heaven flows through their unity, and it cannot be replicated or manufactured. It is authentic, and authenticity always breaks through resistance. The world, though often hardened by doubt and pride, cannot ignore what it can feel. Deep calls unto deep, and in their unity, the deep things of God begin to stir the deep places in others. This unity will also face resistance. Not everyone will celebrate what they do or understand why they do it, but the purpose of their union was never to be understood. It was to be fulfilled. They are not joined for applause, but for assignment. And those who walk in the Spirit will see and know. They will recognize the fingerprints of God in the partnership and be encouraged to seek such alignment in their own lives. This is how revival spreads. Not always through crusades or campaigns, but through living testimonies. Two anointed lives walking as one become a beacon in a world stumbling in the dark. The world may not understand their prayers, their sacrifices, or their decisions, but it will not be able to deny the results. Beauties. Lives changed, hearts stirred, atmospheres shifted. This is the evidence of divine unity, and over time, even the hardest skeptic will pause and deep within, feel the pull of something eternal moving through two surrendered vessels. This is how heaven invades earth, not with fanfare, but with faithfulness. Not through noise, but through the undeniable power of presence. Anointed connections serve generations beyond their time. The impact of such unions does not end with the two individuals who are joined in purpose. It ripples forward, influencing people and circumstances far beyond what the original pair may ever see. This is the nature of divine purpose. It is never limited to the moment. When two anointed souls unite under the guidance of heaven, their bond becomes a seed planted not only for their lives, but for countless others. What they birth together through their obedience, be it ministry, legacy, healing, or vision, takes on a life of its own. Like a tree whose fruit nourishes people they'll never meet, their unity becomes a blessing that continues to give long after their names are forgotten. The world often judges value by immediacy. If something doesn't create fast results, it's considered ineffective. But in the kingdom of God, the greatest works often move quietly across time. A single decision of faith today can open doors a generation from now. When two anointed lives join together in alignment with God's will, the spiritual authority they establish becomes a foundation upon which others can safely build. Their faith becomes a covering, their prayers a shelter, their wisdom a roadmap. Children not yet born will walk in favor because of their faithfulness. Communities will experience restoration because of their obedience. Generational curses will break under the weight of their prayers, and generational blessings will begin because of the covenant they honor. These kinds of unions are rare, not because God withholds them, but because many never wait long enough to receive them. They require maturity, surrender, and patience. But once they happen, they are explosive in their reach. Heaven doesn't just bless them, it blesses through them. Their example speaks when words fail. Others see what they carry together and are inspired to rise higher, to seek deeper, to love with more purpose. And perhaps what is most profound is this: the legacy they create is not necessarily built in public. Much of it happens behind closed doors, in how they speak to each other in private, how they carry one another's burdens, how they forgive, how they intercede, how they remain steadfast. These moments, though unseen by the crowd, are witnessed by God, and they are recorded in eternity. Every generation longs for examples of what true love and divine purpose look like. When they see two people walking in unity with God, it lights a fire in the hearts of others. It sends a message to those watching that destiny is not a fairy tale, it is real, and it is possible. This kind of connection becomes a template, not a trophy. It shows that holiness and intimacy can coexist, that calling and companionship can thrive together, and that purpose is not meant to be carried alone. Young people begin to believe in what God can do with two surrendered lives. The discouraged find hope again. The cynical begin to wonder if maybe they gave up too soon. That is the power of a generational legacy. Its echo is louder than the original sound. The influence of such a connection is often most visible in moments of hardship. When trials come and the world watches how they respond, the testimony deepens. Their faith under pressure becomes a sermon without words. Their unity under fire becomes a standard for those who face their own battles. It is in their endurance that the next generation learns not only how to dream, but how to withstand. And when victories come, they are not just personal wins, they are generational breakthroughs. Every battle they fight together becomes easier for those who come after them. Every stronghold they tear down becomes one less barrier for others to overcome. Even after they are gone, the anointing of their unity continues to speak. Whether through children, disciples, communities, or institutions they've built, their essence remains. They become spiritual ancestors, not just by blood but by example. Their footsteps become paths others walk in. Their prayers live on in hearts they never touched. Their love story becomes more than romance. It becomes a movement. This is what divine unions do. They leave a mark on eternity by simply walking faithfully together today. So when two anointed souls unite, they must understand that what they share is not just for now. It is sacred, and it is for others. Their yes to each other is a yes to the generations that will rise after them. Their obedience will build altars of hope for strangers yet to be born. Their unity is more than emotional, it is eternal. And while their names may fade from history, the fruit of their faith will remain, feeding the future with the goodness of God. Waiting on divine timing prepares both souls for a mission greater than themselves. This truth, while often difficult to embrace, is one of the deepest expressions of trust in God's plan. In a world driven by urgency, speed, and instant gratification, waiting can feel like punishment. But in the spiritual realm, waiting is not a delay, it is preparation. God never brings two anointed souls together prematurely. He allows time, trials, refinement, and even isolation, so that when they finally meet, they are not fragments seeking wholeness, but whole vessels ready to pour into each other and into the world. The waiting season is not a waste. It is where character is forged, vision is clarified, and pride is dismantled. It is where each soul learns that their identity is rooted not in another person, but in the one who created them. During the waiting, both souls are shaped individually by the hand of God. They are often placed in situations that strip away superficial desires and expose the deeper longings of the heart. They begin to discover that the kind of unity they desire cannot be built on brokenness, insecurity, or selfish ambition. It must be built on healed hearts, surrendered wills, and clear understanding of their divine assignment. God knows that bringing two people together before they are ready will only produce distraction, not destiny. So he lovingly holds them back, not to deprive them, but to prepare them. He aligns their growth in secret, molds their patience, strengthens their faith, and sharpens their discernment. Their discernment. Every moment of loneliness, every unanswered prayer, every seeming delay is working together to ready them for something they could never handle without divine preparation. This season of preparation often involves painful pruning. Relationships that are not aligned with destiny are removed. Opportunities that look good but are not God-ordained are withheld. There is a sanctification of desires, where the heart is taught to long not for what feels good, but for what is right. God teaches both souls to hear his voice clearly, to walk in obedience even when it hurts, and to trust his timing even when it doesn't make sense. This process humbles them. It breaks down the idols of urgency and image. It removes the fantasy and replaces it with faith. It teaches them that love is not about possession, but about purpose. By the time they are ready to be united, they are no longer chasing someone to complete them. They are ready to complement one another in the mission God has set before them. When divine timing finally brings them together, there is a peace that surpasses understanding. Not because the journey was easy, but because it was right. They recognize each other not just with their eyes, but with their spirit. There is a resonance, a deep inner knowing that this is not just a connection, it is a convergence. Everything they endured, everything they learned, every tear and every trial now has meaning. The timing, though once questioned, is now seen as perfect. They meet not in neediness, but in readiness. Their love is not rushed, but rooted. They don't just fall in love, they rise in purpose. Their union is not born out of desperation, but from divine direction. And because they waited, their foundation is unshakable. They have learned to endure. They have learned to walk by faith, not sight. They have learned to love God more than the promise, and now that the promise is fulfilled, they are equipped to steward it well. Their love carries maturity, depth, and reverence. They understand the weight of what they hold together. They don't take each other for granted, because they know what it cost to arrive at this point. Their union becomes a testimony, not just of what God can give, but of what he can build through surrender and obedience. In the end, the weight becomes their strength. The delays become their wisdom. The disappointments become their discernment, and their unity becomes a living declaration that God's timing is never wrong. The mission they now carry together is greater than their personal dreams. It is a holy assignment meant to impact lives, break chains, and usher in light where there was darkness. Because they waited, they are not merely a couple, they are a calling fulfilled. And as they walk forward together, the world will see the fruit of lives that chose not to rush, but to trust. In every step, they carry the evidence that divine timing is not only worth the wait, it is the only way.